Trina and the Waves, Love Shine a Light here on BBC Radio Suffolk. Very good morning to you. It's John here with our Sunday breakfast programme. Now, we hear a lot about rights and values, especially in the wake of terrible events such as the recent beach massacre in Tunisia or the London bombings in 2005. If we're all living side by side, whose rights and values should take precedence over others? How do you solve seemingly stark clashes of ideology between religions, between those of faith and those demanding a secular civic life? Well, all tricky questions and all on the table at the Suffolk Inter Faith conference held in Bury St Edmunds this week. Anthony Wooding is a managing partner with Kerseys Solicitors and joins me in the studio this morning. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, you led a workshop on legal systems, just one of many. Just kind of describe maybe the tone and flavour of the day, because there was a huge mix of people there.
Yes, indeed. I think there were about 70 plus people there. But the main thing that really struck me was the diversity of the people in terms of, for instance, you had from all different faiths, but also different areas of the world. So there was someone who spoke who was from Slovenia, who had some experience with the Bosnian conflict and the way in which religion and ethnicity got in the mix there and caused quite some difficulties. So it was very good from the point of view. It's almost like I called it speed dating for people who are interested in faiths and diversity, because you're quickly meeting people from
all these people. And again,
yeah.
It's really interesting to see them all converging in Suffolk, either from Suffolk or have an interest in what happens here in Suffolk. So,
that's right.
Yeah, held by the Suffolk Inter Faith Forum, who do work here. So you were leading a workshop on legal systems, and again, this is an area where there is potential conflict, or maybe certain areas of the press like to highlight potential conflict, particularly with Sharia law in the Muslim world. So I guess you're looking at the balance of the kind of law of the land and how different communities want to administer and manage their systems, and how those two things can coexist. I mean, broadly, can they coexist?
Well, they can, but I think you have to start from some very fundamental principles, or actually one particular principle is that we can have no law in England and Wales which conflicts with our own law, our own statute law and common law. So we can't have two systems of law running, and I think that was borne out by not just myself but the others in the conference. So there can't be that conflict. But what you can have is an addition or a supplement provided by certain rules that, if you like, are not our norm. So how can you sort of square that circle? Well, the best way I can describe it is to give a couple of examples.
Okay.
And the first one is polygamy. So
Right.
Polygamy is against the law, and we can't have a system which allows, under our law anyway, polygamy to be recognised, because that would be contrary to our legal systems.
So you can't have two wives here. You can't marry twice. If you are in and there are several countries in sub-Saharan Africa where you can still, although it's probably not as culturally acceptable as it used to be. If they come over with their two wives, I guess what's illegal?
We won't recognise that as a legal relationship, but because it creates difficulties, because the fact is they are in their own eyes married. In fact, we've had situations even at Kerseys where people have come in who've got two marriages, but only one of them is regarded as legal under our systems. I mean, it could be that both of them are regarded as illegal, depending on the situation. I mean, I'm not a matrimonial expert, but I mean, it's so. But I just wanted to make a distinction here, just to finish the argument, because I think it's quite important, that can contrast that with Sharia mortgages.
Okay.
Because I think with Sharia mortgages, for the reasons, the sort of 6 reasons I've written down here, whereby you can allow different principles to apply, but that's not the same thing as applying a different law.
So a Sharia mortgage would have a different arrangement if Muslims aren't allowed to accept interest payments.
Yeah.
So they have a different financial kind of set up.
Yeah.
So that fits in because it doesn't supersede the law of the land, whereas having two wives would.
Yes.
So that's not allowed.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote down here, I think if I could just bear with me slightly, because I think it's quite important to get these points across, because it is a difficult area. The first thing is that you can't have criminal law or any kind of public law which conflicts with our own law in any shape or even supplements it. So, theft is theft, murder is murder. You can't have exceptions or add-ons to that. Yeah.
And was the tone of the discussion that most people agree with this? Because
yes.
From talking to different communities in Ipswich, I don't think anyone would suggest that Sharia law should replace law in England, although that's not the perception that you get maybe on some reporting.
I agree, but the contrast that with the Sharia situation of Sharia mortgages, what you're dealing with there, you're dealing with private rights between either individuals or possibly businesses, but only affecting them. So it doesn't have any bearing on the wider picture or the legal system or the court system as a whole. It's simply saying that there are certain private agreements that can be made which are not our normal type of agreements. And in fact, that has happened historically anyway, because you can have arbitrations, for instance, which recognise another jurisdiction. If you say, well, we're going to apply French law to this, it can happen if it's a private arrangement between people, not affecting third-party rights, but simply between themselves. So it's possible to construct that. What is important, though, is that it's non-discriminatory. So the product should really be available to everybody, although I don't think many people would want to buy it if it was, particular outside that faith.
Yeah. Although, given the mess that we're in with our mainstream financial system, maybe taking something from different ways of lending and borrowing money might actually be of benefit to
It could do, yeah, you're right. But I suppose it would tend to be packaged. I think it's a home purchase arrangement, they call it.
Okay.
And the Law Society did actually recognise these, Law Society being our governing, our sort of trade union, did recognise these.
And also what's interesting, especially with marriage issues and divorce and couples separating or going through difficulty, there's a big push now for them to go through mediation rather than straight to their solicitors.
Well, this is this is a completely different aspect of it, which is actually quite positive in some ways, and I agree that should be brought. This is what I call the non-legally binding stuff, where people are going through mediation process, which the Sharia process could potentially provide, although because that's trying to reach an agreement, it's not a legal system. It's a conciliatory and mediation system. The only thing about that which sort of is slightly troublesome is having a sort of parallel system which we don't always understand. Is that socially cohesive? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. So for instance, people not getting married in the first place because they're going to, if it goes wrong, and not they anticipate it, but they're going to be going to a Sharia environment to resolve it. So that is to some extent happening, that people aren't actually getting married, they're staying totally within that system. And although that's legally possible, as long as it's not polygamy, which it wouldn't be recognised as such, then although it's legally possible, it does create a sort of parallel kind of system, and it has to be looked at quite carefully to see if that's isolating communities rather than bringing them together. But it's certainly possible to do.
What did you take from the day, from running the session? What did you learn?
One thing that struck me particularly is people are concerned about this equality point, that people should be treated equally. And one particular thing that came up, because when you try and analyse morals, legal systems, etc., how do you choose between things? And one thing that came across very strongly was a concept called reciprocity.
Yeah,
right,
reciprocity.
Yeah, which one of the speakers particularly emphasised, which is that you should treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. So if you adopt that system, you can have variety within that, but as long as that principle is recognised and that people are treating each other equally on a fair basis. But this doesn't take away from the fact that only one legal system can apply in this country.
And
at the end of the day.
And it does, despite what you might read on certain front pages.
Yeah.
Anthony, thank you very much for coming in and speaking to me this morning. That's Anthony Wooding, managing partner with Kerseys Solicitors, who ran one of the workshops on legal systems at the Suffolk Inter Faith conference held in Bury St Edmunds this week, looking at rights and values.